Hello, you are watching the Pure Passion Biz podcast with Akua Hinds, and I'm your host, Akua Hinds. Today, I have the pleasure of interviewing Mike McQuillan. And Mike is from New York, and he's based in Peru right now. And he is a world-class speaking coach. How are you today, Mike?
Right now, it's been 12 years. I keep telling people it's temporary, but yes, I'm doing great. I don't want to rub it in. You're a Caribbean living in Canada, and it's 72 degrees Fahrenheit and partly sunny. But I don't want to rub it in. Akua, how are you?
I'm doing well. I think there is a polar vortex happening right now in my area, but apparently warm weather is going to happen next week. So I'm crossing my fingers for that. So I would love to know, Mike, what are your top three tips that you give to somebody who is struggling with how to introduce themselves to a group of people who they're meeting for the first time and maybe they're new in business? What do you recommend to them to help their message to stand out?
Excellent. Well, I'm glad you start with that because I get to use one of my flashcards. I didn't plan on this, but you gotta be ready anyway. And that's right here. It's this word, you.
You.
Listen, you and I met in different networking places, and so many people say, yeah, basically what I do is this, and what comes next might as well be, I might as well take this water and gargle it because nobody's listening. However, you talk about the audience, what they do, what's up with them. And I'll say something like, you have a business, and I'm willing to bet there's a good chance you're frustrated because people don't understand what you do. They don't understand the value of what you do. And a lot of people in your circumstance, a lot of people in that position would say, well, if they don't get it, then the faster I talk, the sooner they'll understand it. And then they'll follow up with, does that make sense? And no, it doesn't. So once put the focus on the audience and say, you, me? Yes, you. That is number one. So if I were to give a tip, is number one, put the focus on the audience. Two, put your lessons in storytelling form whenever possible. And I'll think of a third one. We've got some time to talk.
So I love what you said about putting the focus on the person who is the star, right? And for some people, the star might be themselves, the star might be the customer. Really, every business owner wants a customer to know what they can benefit, how they can benefit from, becoming a client or a customer. So, how do you suggest that someone gets that message out in about 60 seconds or less? Because as you know from attending various networking events, you pretty much are only allotted 60 seconds, maybe 2 minutes, depending on the group. But oftentimes, a lot of networking groups are an hour long. Some groups meet for half an hour, depending, but a lot of them meet for an hour. And there are breakout sessions within that time frame that take place. So you have only about 60 seconds to really make an impact. And what is your tip on doing that in a very short time frame?
Well, I wish I could tell you, Akua, that the way to do it is to give a dynamite presentation coached by yours truly. But the fact is, in the networking meeting, if it's one of those massive pitch parties where everybody gets a minute, everybody gets 45 seconds, what are those people doing while you're speaking?
Well, they're
They're
thinking about their pitch.
ta-da, yes. And then when they speak, it's like, why isn't anybody listening? This pitch was perfect. I hired a speaking coach. Okay, so the topic you want to, if it's that, what you really want to do is listen to people and you want to get their information and connect with them on LinkedIn and then follow up. That's really the thing. If you show me anybody who's ever sold a product on a 60-second pitch, man, I want to know that person. The where I've been most successful is not selling my services on a 60-second pitch, but inviting people to an event. You
Okay.
would do much better inviting people to be a guest on your podcast than to say, hey, you should hire me as your voice actor, or you should buy these products, check out my website, check out these dating sites, check out all these. Whoa, 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 whoa. But if you say, I want to invite you to be on my podcast, or if in my case, I don't know when this is going to launch, but 2 days from now, as we record this, I'm doing a workshop, storytelling for solopreneurs. I'll get people to do that. So you want to get them to follow up. That's the best thing in a pitch party like that, where you're just putting it out there. In a breakout room, and listen, we usually see the same people, and you know what they're selling, you know what they're pitching. Talk about them. I get 60 seconds. I see five people in the room. I know everybody there. I'm going to go down the line and say, hey, you do this and you do that. And I love your podcasting platform. I love those products you sell. I love the business coaching you do. We'll talk about everybody else. And whoa, he's paying attention to me. Then they'll reciprocate. So as much as I want to tell you, oh, just tell them what you do and tell them how much you charge and then say, book on my calendar and we'll talk more. Sometimes that works. But really, you want to offer them something tangible.
Right. So it sounds kind of like what you're saying is if you want to have a friend, be a friend. So be that person who's going to give them that undivided attention and encouragement to hear what they have to say, and then welcome them to join you in your environment to share more of what they do with other people in your group. And I'm very much looking forward to your workshop. It's coming up in a few days. So can you tell me, I've never attended your workshop before, although you and I have talked and we've met virtually, never attended your workshop. So can you tell me what can someone look forward to from attending your workshop this upcoming Thursday, for mainly for entrepreneurs, right? But what if somebody's not in business but they want to improve their public speaking? Can they benefit
Okay, we'll
too?
go backwards. We'll answer the second question first. If you don't own a business, you still are your own entity.
Right.
And I will say this, not every single job, but every profession I've worked in, I've raised my professional reputation through speaking. Because most fields, other than maybe politics, most fields people don't like to talk. It's even as a teacher, you'd think teachers would be natural public speakers. They're not. They're outside of the safe space of their classroom. Teachers can be very nervous and very shy about speaking to grown-ups if they're teaching kids all day. So every profession that I've ever worked in, I've raised my reputation through public speaking. And if it's kind of stuck professionally, that is definitely something for you. As for promoting your business, you have a story that brought you this far, and you have to know how to tell it. And I'm not mocking anybody who's been through horrible things in their lives. I will say it is a little ridiculous to come out by just shotgun blasting everything that's ever gone wrong in your life. And I see a lot of people, well, and again, I'm not mocking people who've been through this. I was broke and homeless and divorced and diagnosed with a rare blood disease, and now I'm a life coach. What happened there? You've got to do what we're going to go over in this workshop is how to choose the right story. There's certain criteria. And the other thing is how to present it with the right conflict. I'll give away the formula. Conflict, more conflict, your conflict. I'll give it away what the formula is, how to implement it. Come on down to the workshop or book on my calendar and we'll discuss.
So it sounds to me like what you're saying is that conflict doesn't have to be bad, and that what you do is you help your clients to figure out a way to use their conflicts for their better good, for a more
The
positive.
conflicts, yeah, the story has to have conflict. It doesn't always have to be life-threatening. It doesn't have to be monumental. In fact, if you can make a very mundane story exciting, that's better. Because, and I learned this in journalism school a long time ago. Anybody can write about a train wreck. When there's explosions and there's bombs going off and there's ambulances and fire trucks, it's an easy story to tell. But if you can tell a story about, I don't know, shaking a pack of M&Ms out of a vending machine and something, if you can make a real story out of something that's just very mundane and ordinary, that's talent. And that really warms you up to your audience when you're not boasting, you're not gloating. So that is one part of it, is that it doesn't have to be this earth shattering. As long as you solve some kind of a conflict, is just a problem. Whatever problem you solve in your story, that's the same problem you solve for your audience. So if you're climbing Mount Kilimanjaro and you lose a ski and you have to hop down on one foot, okay, is that what you do in your business? No, I do digital marketing. So why are you telling me about Kilimanjaro? It has to be relevant to the business you perform.
Great tips. And I really like what you said too about how some people they feel very comfortable in their typical work environment, but when they're removed from that situation, they may not know how to introduce themselves or they may not know what to say in a way that helps other people understand them. I myself am an introvert. I can be an outgoing introvert, but I am an introvert and I enjoy public speaking. I enjoy presenting. I enjoy performing. But there are people who are like myself who are introverts and who don't know how to get their message out there. So, how would you encourage somebody who's introverted, who has that personality type?
As you were speaking, I couldn't wait to jump in and answer that because I'm extroverted. But you introverted people, you have an advantage over people like me. You know why?
How?
Because you actually think before you speak.
Hmm.
I don't know what that's like. I sometimes I wonder what that's like, but not for very long because I just blurt it out. Introverts are also great speakers. Some of my favorite speakers are introverts. I have my list of my top five favorite speeches, and one of them is Mr. Rogers, the old children's television host. He addressed the U.S. Senate and never raised his voice. He was talking to the trolley, like he was talking to Mr. McFeely. I'm deeply concerned about our children and the way he slayed that dragon. Barack Obama is an introvert. Nothing comes out of his mouth until it goes through every channel and every crevice in his brain. That's why you get so much look, because he's doing his check systems. Is it true? Is it accurate? Is it going to offend somebody? How's the sentence structure? That's why when he finally says, I like ice cream. Like, whoa, did you hear that? Because it's perfectly planned. So introverted and shy are not the same thing.
That's true.
That's a big misconception. I have a blog post on it. I'll put it in the notes. So if you're watching this on YouTube, check the comments. It'll be there.
Mhm.
Introverted and shy are not the same thing. So being introverted just means you orient inward. You actually take time to think, and sometimes you're more drawn out. Now, there is a caveat to that. Not everybody who's introverted and got the is when they speak, it's not always a monument. Some people play the role of introvert to pretend to be more intellectual. Well, it seems to me that throughout society we have a more complex vision of it. Some people exploit the introversion and say, "Sorry, I'm too busy thinking to say anything important." So make sure you have a good balance. Say something meaningful, but take your time to think about it. You have that advantage. Make it your superpower.
I love that. Make it your superpower. And I hope that encourages all the introverts out there who are watching. What is your advice for extroverts, for people who may not always take the time to analyze what they're wanting to say and they just let it all out? How do you work with
Torpedo
them?
in the water. Oh, well, I could probably use some of that myself. It depends on how extreme you are as an intro. Oh, my connection's a little unstable, but coming back. Depends on how extreme you are as an extrovert, because use that to your advantage as well. I would say one thing that an extrovert needs to do is anytime, because I know when I got started speaking in Toastmasters a long time ago, I led with my opinions. And if you're going to do that, make sure you give concession to the other side. If you like cats, explain why you understand how other people like dogs. And that gives you a good balance to think about your audience. Now, if you prefer the rain, explain why I understand other people like sunny weather. Something that just give concession to the other side, and that will give you just enough time to pause and reflect to say something meaningful. Because I know that as an extroverted speaker, I have a potential to run away from my audience. And you don't, that's probably the worst thing about an extrovert is you run away from the audience. You just, oh, I got something else, torpedo in the water. The minute you say, there's another point of view to this, and let me address that, you're now in front of your audience again.
You're drawing them back in.
Mm-hmm. You're drawing yourself back in.
Do you recommend that people who want to improve their presentation skills, do you recommend that they keep a notebook and write down topics that they're interested in um, or things that they want to mention during their quick presentations, like an infomercial or a quick speech? Or do you suggest that they practice it to the point where they don't need to write anything down? They can just say it off the cuff.
I suggest they work with a speaking coach.
That's
Okay,
what I
here's what yeah, of course, come on, I would throw that one in. Now, this right here is a notebook from a client I just finished working with about 30 minutes ago, 23 minutes ago, actually. You want notebooks to write down ideas. Now, you can, there's writing apps and things, but to actually go straight from the mind to the pen runs away from you sometimes, and you want to take advantage of that. So start by writing. You want to keep a story, and you can start, it's the chicken or the egg. You can start from the story, or you can start from the lesson. You can have a lesson I want to teach, and I'm going to tell a story to support that lesson, or I got a story, I'm just going to keep telling the story till I find the lesson. It works both ways. So you just keep those in your notebook. I would suggest you can either go from the front to the back, like in the front, have your stories, your phrases in the back, let them meet in the middle, or you can just take the center right here, relatively new client or second session, we haven't gotten this far in the notebook. Maybe in the second part, put all your phrases and just different lessons you want. And on this side, you want your stories, just list them, start there. So put everything to a story. So if introducing yourself, you might not introduce with a full out story, but that's what you want to do. Then yes, you want to practice it. And when you're in networking meetings, listen, there are networking meetings all day, every day. So just keep practicing. You're going to botch a few. You're going to try a few new things. Just like anything else, practice it. But yeah, you do want to keep a story file. You want to keep a phrase file and just keep on working. You're never done. You know, like the game Othello, a minute to learn, a lifetime to master. You keep on tweaking. And if you have a longer time frame, not just the 60-second, there are ways to make the story three-dimensional. Checking in with the audience, adding dialogue to your stories, make them come to life so you're not lecturing them.
Well, Mike, thank you so much for all of these extremely valuable tips for introverts, for extroverts, for people who have their own businesses, and for people who don't have their own businesses. They're still their own entity and they're representing themselves. We're all representing ourselves everywhere we go. And I want to thank you so much for appearing as a guest on my podcast. I'm looking forward to attending your workshop, and the links to how viewers can connect with you are in the description box in the video. And thank you so much for appearing as a guest today.
Thanks a lot.
You're most
Great.
welcome. Thank you.